Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the live show today. We've got an interview with Maria Hoij, who is from Sweden. Thank you so much for joining in with us today, Maria.
Thank you for having me.
And as per usual, we've got the wonderful Serena. Welcome to the show and to be on today.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
So we're all super excited about today's show. So we're going to be diving deeper into international business and doing business internationally and the legal issues involved around doing business internationally. So we've got Maria on today where you're going to get some great insights into business global legal information that you need to know when doing your business globally. Now, Maria is a lawyer first and foremost, and known herself globally as a financial advisor, business growth strategist, and you do not want to miss this interview with her today. Thank you so much for once again being on, Maria.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you on. So today, like a lot of people are going to be very fascinated, I guess, by this side of it all too, because being that we've all taken our business online, and there's a lot of people now that are doing business with people internationally, especially in the online space. It happens so often. You're bringing in international contractors, you're bringing in international people to do business with you, and all these different types of things, right? And what a lot of people don't seem to think about is the non-sexy side around the legal issues. Let's face it, it's not a sexy side of it. It's cool to say, hey, I'm a global brand and I've got people in Singapore and America and Australia and New Zealand and Sweden and all these wicked places, right? Like I do business in all these places, but then there's the non-sexy side around, you know, what happens, like how can you, I guess, protect yourself from a legal perspective? How can you protect your business? Should you go into like some sort of like legal trouble with a business, like for example, contractors not delivering on a service for you, or something just that isn't going, it doesn't go the way that you planned it to in the, like, as part of this as well. So like this is something that can come up with doing business globally, and being that every state, every country has very, very different laws. Some very similar, but I can imagine some very, very vastly different as to the way that they look at things, especially when dealing with foreigners and all this type of stuff too. But first of all, like, give us a bit of an understanding on you, Maria. Who are you? Like give us a little bit about your background as well.
Yes. So my background is I'm working as a lawyer, accountant. I've also worked as a CFO, a chief finance officer. Actually also worked in UK companies. I'm from Sweden, so I'm a Swedish lawyer. And I'm also been an entrepreneur for many years, having my own businesses. Okay. And today I help people as a lawyer with legal contracts, corporation structures, and tax advice. My specialities are corporate law and international tax law. And I'm also a financial advisor and a business growth strategist. And I actually ran a consulting company for many years, and other people were telling me that I was successful, but I really didn't feel that way. I felt that I wanted to be able to do more, to help more people. Then a couple of years back, I sustained a back injury that I was practically bedridden for 1.5 years. And my life became like totally a halt on stop. And first, I felt very sorry for myself, and I was focusing on what I couldn't do. But then I realized I had a choice. I could continue to do that, or I could switch my mindset and start to really focusing on what I actually could do and do more of that. So I chose to focus on the positive things in my life. And I was searching to find people, and I found coaches like JT Fox. And a network with really positive people that I found online also. And these people wanted to improve themselves and to help others also to actually impact the world. And thanks to education, coaching, and network opportunities, I saw a bigger vision. And I saw how I could work more creative and more smart to be able to really help more people. So we do, as many of you have might have heard before, we do business with people that we know, we like, and we trust. And today I really find great people to work with that has similar values to mine. And I think that is really important when you work with people. So I find great consulting clients, coaching clients, and also business partners that I'm working with in many different business ventures. And I even used to have panic attacks thinking of doing speech in public, like now, speaking to people. That was something I had a really hard time with. But that was something I also decided I needed to work on. And I got some help with that through coaching. And now I speak on stages all over the world. And I love to do that. I love to share things because I do believe that with the right knowledge and the right tools, we all can succeed in business. We all can grow and help each other.
Great, that's fantastic, and I find it like your story. I'm sure would a lot of people would be feeling very similar in terms of your story, because like when it comes to like speaking in front of people and large volumes of people as well, right? Like I know for me, I never felt like this when I first started. I didn't want to speak in front of people and things like that either. I was just happy doing like, you know, phone calls to people one-on-one, you know, like I was just happy doing that because that was like how I started business in 2017, was just cold calling people. I was just very comfortable on the phone. But when it came to like speaking in front of, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, it's like such a different story, right? So thanks so much for sharing. That's fantastic. So like for a lot of people as well, like that may be tuning in here today as well, like let's talk a little bit like what sort of really got you started into business for yourself. So you worked with a lot of bigger companies and things like that. What sort of got you started in business yourself?
For me, I already knew as a young child that I wanted to work as my own boss, because I saw my father having his companies and he was helping a lot of people. But I also saw him working the hardest of everybody. And he actually even got a heart attack. So I saw that I was looking for ways to, how can you work smart and do this, being your own boss, without you being the one working all the time. So I'm a lot into finding strategies, processes, and structure with everything I do. So it's easy for people to duplicate. And that's really important. So that is how, so I always knew I wanted to do business, and I've been doing business alongside with other with employments that I've had, working as a lawyer, working as the CFO. I also have my own business on the side. Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. I love that. So now let's sort of segue a little bit more. Let's talk about international business. So like a lot of people that will be doing business like or on our live streams as well, watching, a lot of them would have been thinking about maybe hiring contractors, people in to help with various different types of services or marketing help or anything like that, or even potentially as well, they may be thinking of taking their brand outside of Australia or outside New Zealand or outside America or outside Europe, for example, as well. So what would you say people need to keep in mind when they're looking to, either hire someone outside of their country or state where they live, or even, if they're looking to, expand further? What's some things that people need to keep in mind when they're looking to do that from a legal perspective?
Well, the first thing first, we all need to think about having our paper and finances in order. Always have paper trail and money trail. So it's really, really important that you have everything in writing, that you have, so that you can see what have you discussed and what did you actually agree upon. So it's really important to have the written contracts in place. And some people are copying templates online or copy someone else's agreements, contracts, and even the GDPR, different things that they are copying. And you do that, but you need to have someone go through them for you to review the contract, a lawyer, to really make sure that they are drafted in your best interest, that it is up to date, because rules, laws, regulation, everything is changing all the time. So it needs to be up to date. So you need to check it regularly, not just one and done. So that's really important to think about.
But
how also that is
people need to be how often should people need to be checking this type of stuff? Like, how often does it get updated?
Well, most people don't update, but you need to check it at least yearly. I check contracts at least every third month with some of my clients. It depends on your type of business, what you're doing, the structure, and what countries you're working in. So you also need to make sure that the contracts are legal and actually are working in all of these countries that you're working in. If you have contractors in different countries, if you have clients in different countries, you need to make sure that they also are actually legal. And if you have a contract now that you have it, but you haven't checked it for a while, or you never had it checked, you can always have it reviewed by a lawyer. You can have it renegotiated and get it changed. So that's really good to think about. And it is also important, I talked about the finances, you also need to have money to be able to prove when you're sending money abroad or getting it from abroad, and how much money has been paid and why. So you have, because of the money laundering regulations that are in all of the countries today, it's really important to have that, because otherwise that can become a really big problem if you can't prove why certain money has been transferred in either direction. And it's also important to think about, especially if you're a solopreneur, you need to have separate bank accounts from your private. It's really, really important. Some people mix that a little bit, but it's really important. And it's very easy in most banks to have many accounts. So you can have one separate for your business. And I mean, in these days now with the coronavirus and everything, it's become even more clear that we need to have everything in order. Because if something happens, if we suddenly get sick, or if someone dies, we don't know how that person was thinking about the business if the papers are not in order. So that is really, really important. I actually helped a friend of mine whose brother died with 2 businesses, and everything was not in order. So it's taken a lot of time and a lot of detective work to try to figure out how was he thinking about different things, and because if you don't have that in written, it's really, really hard to know for other people. How are you thinking? Because they cannot go into your mind. So these things are really, really important to think about. And also make sure to have, if you're married or not, is really important to have a written testament, and also to have what is supposed to happen if you die and you have stocks in a company and that company owes assets in another land, like in the UK, if you have a company that owns a real estate, you might want to check, because this I know in some of the counties in UK, and I also know this is for Thailand also, where property comes, if you own a property, you need to have a will, testament written in that specific country, because that country don't valid wills and testaments from other countries. So these things are important to think about, and many people don't know that. And it's also now with the force majeure, we also have that now with the pandemic happening, where the governments are making decisions that is out of our control. That is a force majeure. That means it's totally out of your control. It's unpredictable. So you need to have those also clauses in your contracts to make sure that you're protected if something like that happens. When it comes to,
that's like, I love that point, right? Like, because I think what's happened with a lot of people is that the pandemic's happened, and now they've gone, holy crap, we can't work from an office and all these types of things. and then
Yes.
they've gone, I got to get everything online ASAP. So there's like the mad panic to get everything online and get out of the office space as soon as possible, set up home offices, all this type of stuff. And, you know, sometimes when we get under pressure, we just make decisions and we don't think about the ramifications of those decisions that have been made. So it's like, you know, they might enter into a contract or an agreement, or they might get on the phone with somebody and they'll say, I can set all this up for you. We can get it all done today, blah, 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 blah. And then there's no contract in place, or, you know, maybe there's a contract that was sent that they didn't look over correctly or something. Like what do you suggest to these types of people that may have potentially done something like this? Like what?
Well, that's like I said, contracts is, I mean, that's the base. You need to have the contracts in order. That's so important to have that in place. And when you're doing business with, like, I can take an example. You have a homepage and you're selling product to individuals all over the world. And let's say you do that. And if you're, maybe you have your company is in the US, and you sell to individuals, and then someone from Europe orders products from you, an individual that's in residence in, let's say, in Germany, and you send the products and you have their information. And then the thing is, with the GDPR, the Data Protection General Data Protection Regulation. Yeah, sometimes it's like blah, 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 all of these words. Yeah, it's about personal data that needs to be protected for individual people. And that is, if you have a business online and you're selling to individuals within these areas in Europe that is protected by the GDPR, you need to follow those rules. Not everybody understands that. You need to follow the GDPR rules, because if you're offering goods or services, it doesn't need to be a commercial transaction. If you offer it to people that is within the European Union, you need to have a specific way to save and store data, and how you treat the data, and that the name, the contract information, like details of devices like IP addresses, location data, biometric information, photographies, videos, everything. There's a lot of things to think about. So you need to follow those rules, and you need to have the GDPR privacy policy in place also. And you need to have, it's a specific way, if someone opts into your page, you need to have a box with a tick and say, oh, I'm allowing you to treat my data, to store that. So it's a lot of things that people don't know really about that they need to do, even just selling products online to individuals all over the world. Because if you were to not comply with that, and the governments within the European Union finds this out, you can be fined with 4% of the annual global revenue, or 20 million euro, and they choose which one is higher.
Okay.
So if you're a small company, you might get a fine on 20 million euro if you're not, yes. They don't care about the size of the company. I know, it's crazy. It's really crazy. So these are things that I'm helping so many people with this, because so many do not realize how much things it is to think about. So doing a risk analysis, having a lawyer checking, your company, your paper, like me, I'm also an economist. So I also have an accountant. I check also that, and looking at the finances, have everything in place.
Can you just share with me, what was the fine again? How much?
20 million euro.
20 million
and
euro.
That's the lowest fine. That's the lowest fine.
Wow.
I know.
It's
Also
It's crazy. It's crazy. I know.
Insane. Like, we convert that to Australian dollars, that's a lot more than just 20 million. like Australia, not
Yeah.
that's not right.
And so many people are not really aware of this because they haven't, I mean, they start a business, they have products or they have services that they're selling. They start it and they just start selling and they just put out their offers to whoever, wherever, and they don't know about these things because they didn't check it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we might be entrepreneurs, we might be, you know, good at what we're doing, but we might not know all of these fine print stuff that we need to get a handle on. So this is one of the things I was passionate about sharing for you today, for all of the audience.
Yeah, this is one thing that, like, there's so many people in the online game right now that are talking about leads, sales, like, and I'm one of them, right? So I'm one of them that talks about all this sort of stuff, and Serena as well. And I'm sure Serena, you hear what I'm saying here, right? Like, there's so many of us talking about like lead sales, all this sort of stuff, but we don't talk about the legal ramifications. Would you
I
agree?
think a lot of people might think about it, you know, behind the scenes or behind in their own mind, you know, like when they first brought out that, I never get it right, what is it called?
GDPR.
GDPR. I actually bought a program to teach and actually do it for other people at the time because it was very difficult to understand what it was about. Who does it affect? Does it only affect me if I offer my business to the European, or does it affect me if I offer it global? It doesn't affect me if I just offer it to Australia. So if I offer my stuff to Australia, then I don't need to worry about it. But now a lot of people are looking to go global with going online, and a lot of that is going to really come into effect and, you know, affect them if they don't understand what it is properly. So they really need to know that one in particular.
Agreed, right? But like, I guess this is like why so many people should be just following this page, right? Because like, and even people like Maria, because like Maria's all the way from Sweden today and sharing with us about like her experience and, you know, her knowledge for free too, by the way, here. Like, we're not paying her, we're not getting paid for this live stream or anything, right? We're just doing it because we want to give back to every single one of you that's on the live stream. So like, you guys have got to be sharing this live stream to everybody you know. If you've got groups right now, you should be sharing this across to those groups. If you've got, you know, your own business pages, your friends, your family, everybody needs to hear this regardless of whether they're in business now or they're even not in business, right? Because they share all their data in with businesses too. So privacy is something for everybody. But for a lot of you guys as well that are in business right now, you should be sharing all this across everyone else because there's no one else sharing this information freely like this. And continue, Maria. Now continue.
It's not a topic that a lot of people do talk about. They all talk about, you know, sales and marketing, and yes, we're good for that as well, but not sort of the legal ramifications of what goes on. And that's why I think it's very valuable to a lot of people to understand exactly what is behind the scenes. Similar to, you know, when you touched on about, you know, people having business, you can have business that you offer to other countries, but then there's the having a business in another country while you're from another country, which is what we touched on just before, Maria, about, you know, when I opened up a company inside the Philippines, and that's when all the legal ramifications started to come on board. I trusted the country to mainly keep me up to date with how I need to just protect my back because I'm in a country that, you know, I don't know much about. And also make sure that, you know, I protected myself back in my other side as well too. You know, you're talking about bank accounts. I had a bank account. There was a special word for it. It was, I used to put money through that to come through and then move it over to the Philippines. So it was just like a landing page type of thing, you know, it landed in there, coming from whichever direction was easy for it to come from, and then I would move it across. So it was like I was hiring that bank account for my company in the Philippines. So I was covering myself that way. Money, you know, of course, there was a lot of money going from one country to another, and I never had any problems with that. I used PayPal, quite large amounts going through PayPal, until I found out about TransferWise. Everybody, if you don't use transferwise.com, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Out on saving a lot of money, put it that way.
Yeah, definitely saving a lot of money. I paid what I paid through PayPal all those years. I could kick myself, but anyway, it doesn't matter. All done and dusted now. So yeah, so if you want to bring up some stuff about the ramifications of legalities in having a business in another country, I've got a lot to talk about there.
yes, it's really important to think about if you're starting a company in another country, or if you go into joint venture or partnership, and even if you're actually hiring someone in another country, maybe someone is your distributor or something like that, they have are your face out from your company in that country. Even if you're hiring virtual assistants, you need to think about that they are, sometimes you have them representing you in different areas, in different ways. They're representing your company. And what is really important that is, if I go to the VA now, I'm coming back to what you were talking about too also. But if you have a VA, a virtual assistant, if you're thinking about hiring one, you need to have some stuff that you're looking at. One of the things is to check that an independent contractor contract is really, really in place, and that it is legal, that they are an independent contractor, because otherwise, if they are not having their business in place, that they are an independent contractor, they can be seen as an employment, an employee of your company. And then there's other stuff you need to think about. If you have an employee in another country, they need to get employment contract, all the regulations that is for an employee in that country where they have their residence, you need to follow that. That is really, really important, even if they are employed in your country, in a different country, in that company. You need to follow the rules for the residents, because that is following the employment rules are really, really strict around the world in all different countries. But like a virtual assistant, if you have a contract in place, you need to check who owns the work that are created with the virtual assistant. You need to have that in place in your contract. How are the hours going to be reported? How are they logging the work? How are the fees and compensation in place? Everything like that need to be in the contract. Confidentiality, a non-disclosure agreement needs to be in place, that they are not allowed to disclose your company secrets, or your company, if you have a specific, you do a specific way of doing the work, they are not allowed to disclose it. And you also need to have a non-compete clause in place, that they are not allowed to use the information that they learn from working with you and doing that in a separate business and use that information. And also have a non-circumvention clause, that they are not allowed to bypass you if you are, like in real estate, if you're having the seller and the buyer, and you are in between, then suddenly they decide to go behind your back and bypass you and do that deal without you. You need to have those things in place in all of your contracts, non-circumvention clause, both VAs and also if you're working with like selling, buying, all of these things are really, really important. And also, like you were talking about, liability, responsibility, rules about that need to be, who is liable for what, in which extent, is really, really important. And also, if a dispute is to happen, I mean, everybody hopes that it's not, if your VA, if you go back to that, has your logging information, what if they were to lock you out of your accounts?
Yeah, so I was going to, because I've been through all of this, and I've been through a lot more actually. So a couple of things I've learned is, number one, never trust anybody, okay? Even with your legal documents and all that, never trust anybody, especially with VAs and things like that. Yes, look, I've had like 10 years. I've got, some couple of staff that have been with me for actually 10 years, and I do trust them, but not 100%, because I think the bottom line is when what's the saying, when shit comes to shovel, or shovel comes to shit, or something like that, it's always going to be about themselves first and foremost. And that's just, the name of the game, and that's what I've learned. Number two, the legal documents, I did everything properly through a company as it was done in that country and all that. And when they broke their rules, I really couldn't do anything about it. It was like my lawyer said, not worth chasing up, you know, and you've got to, I think we even do that now. Do I spend all this energy trying to, you know, chase something like that, or I just put the focus into something more worthy for what you want to bring in? So I had a bit of that. I had the non-compete. I had everything like that because it was all done sort of properly, and pretty much most of the rules were broken. And I had one staff member who I trusted and who actually lived in my house over there, steal $30,000 from the government over 2 years. And the government was the SSS health department, who we had a VIP manager that was in charge of our company, and I never knew it, but we never saw them for 2 years. And the moment that this all came out, which we actually had to pay the NBI to set her up to catch her, pay them to do their job, mind you. The guy that was our VIP manager resigned or retired and left for Canada right at that moment. And I'm wondering why my lawyer's not, hang on, what's going on here? This is something, you know, something fishy. So anyway, so then of course they wanted me to pay it back. So it was, you know, a big long story, and it went through court for I think 2 years, cost me lots of money. The court dragged out, which they always do. The judges kept taking personal leave when you turn up, you know, for court after flying from international to, you know, 2 months personal leave for whatever. And, you know, my lawyer was just, when I asked another lawyer to see if I could take the SSS to court for their, you know, not doing their job properly, he said he couldn't find our office. We're in a big major complex. And of course we did have a few phones, but that obviously wasn't dialable for them. And it was going to cost me what she stole to take them to court. And it just wasn't worth it. So yes, there's a lot of things to do. The bottom line for me, I think if you're going to work with a VA, work it from your own country, do it from your own rules, set up your own contract so at least they know what to work to, because they do need to work to, but don't expect it to hold up in their country. Because if you're not there, even when you're there, it's very difficult.
So, like, as well from your perspective too, Maria, like in situations like this, because literally anybody could get into this situation in terms of hiring a virtual assistant, and it's doing off all the contracts and everything in your own country and everything like that. But then there's the other country which the other VAs are in. Like, can you protect yourself? Is there a way to be able to write in 2 different countries, like regulations, rules, all this type of stuff in contracts? Can you actually have 2 different countries or 3 different countries that you may be doing business in into one contract? Or would you do them all? Like, how would you go about doing that just to protect yourself?
In some you can. The thing is also there are different legal systems, so they're working a little bit differently. Like in Canada and US, it's one legal system. In Europe, it's another kind of legal systems. So you need to know, have a lawyer check it for you and see what can be done. How much can you be protected? You can never cover everything, but try to cover as much as possible. Sometimes you need many contracts, like I talk about, you need will and testaments in different countries sometimes, and you also need contracts in different countries sometimes, specifying different things because of the liability issues. Who is liable when this and this happen? Who is to you know, for the costs if it becomes a trial? And it's good to have if it becomes a dispute, it's good to have in the contracts that you're going to try to have a mediator first, negotiation first, mediation, and arbitration. But arbitrations there are arbitrations courts, so to say. It's not a public court, but there are arbitration acts. And since we have international treaties behind being in different countries, some are between 2 countries and some are like in the European Union. They are all of the countries in the European Union are subsidiary to the European Union courts and some of the rules there. So you need to have a lawyer checking all of these different things because there's a lot of things to check, and also to check if something new has happened, to have the contracts regularly gone through, to check has something new happened that might change. Like I checked a company in the UK with employment contracts And just like 6 months before, there had come a new rule that they needed to be an employment handbook also written from that company that they had no idea about, because they haven't checked what was happening with the rules, because they were working and they were selling and they were doing what they were doing in the company.
Mm.
So you need to have someone sort of looking out for your interest.
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. So in other words, just get a lawyer or just get them to look into all this for you, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is cool. This has been some great information. If you guys are here on the stream today, if you guys are enjoying this, just comment into the comments and just say, yeah, I'm enjoying it, or this is great, or fantastic. Because if you guys want us to continue doing more of this type of stuff with some awesome information, I mean, if you guys enjoy it enough, we might even get Maria back on to speak about other things next time as well, which I'm sure she would love to if she could work it into her schedule, just putting her on the spot now. So if you guys are enjoying this, just comment below, let us know that you're enjoying it and you're getting some valuable information from this, because we're going to sort of segue this a little bit further now across into, like, I guess, business partnerships, and structures with international, like people that are internationally in other countries and things like that. So like, for all of for people that are looking to go into business together, I guess there's heaps of things that people must speak about. For example, it's like, the difference in the different types of contracts to put together. I mean, is it, part ownership? Is it like, percentages of ownership? Is it two contractors going into one business? Or is it, like all the different types of things that people must think about when it comes to structures and business partnerships. Do you have some thought patterns or some ways of structuring things effectively with partnerships and so on as well? Is there some things that people should be keeping in mind? Because I know in a lot of these types of times, a lot of people end up for some reason going into business together, or going into business with other people, or doing joint ventures, all this type of stuff. What do people need to keep in mind when they're going into these types of agreements?
There's a lot of things to think about. And actually, when you're thinking about going in, already there, when you're thinking about and you're in negotiation with someone, I recommend that you have a non-disclosure agreement in place between the both of you during the negotiation already. So you structure your contract already then. Because if you're during the negotiations are revealing some of your company secret, maybe showing we are doing this and this and this way, we have this structure, we do things are, that is something that you invented, or sharing different things that are specific secrets, so to say, for your company, and you don't have a non-disclosure, if you don't go into partnership, they can use that information for themselves. And a lot of people don't think about that. And it's the same when you're in, if you're in employment, like you're thinking about hiring a VA, and you might send them something that they should do, that many do. You ask them to do a trial for you, and you send some information for them to that is actually secrets for your company. You need to set up a non-disclosure agreement there too, a contract, to have during this time you are in these proceedings. So, when you go into a contract, what I usually recommend, when you go into a contract, into a partnership, a joint venture, or different things like that, everybody is, it's a honeymoon period, so to say. Everybody's saying, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna contribute with this, and I have this that I'm gonna do. But many who has gone into partnership have realized that that doesn't always play out that way, so to say. People don't always hold up to their promises. So it's really important to have like a trial period, and depending on what kind of contract, it might be sort of thing in your contract. And within that period, it should be easy for both parties to leave. Easier than when you go into sort of the actual full contract between you. And it's really important to specify all of these things I was talking about that you need to do with the VA. You need to specify all of these things in all contracts. So especially the liability, who is to be liable for what if something happens? Who is the one that is responsible for different areas, that if something is to happen there, then they have the responsibility between you guys. Because if you're having like a limited company, yeah, the limited company is liable to a certain extent. But if something would to be happen in that company, that someone were to act in a fraudulent way, the company might be liable, and then everyone in the company become liable.
Ooh. Okay.
So, and also need to know this is really important. Some people are asked to become, well, I have this company is limited. I need to have someone on the board. Just sign that you're on the board, but you not really have to do anything, and it's just a paperwork. It's nothing, it's not going to be anything. Everybody needs to know that if you sign and become a board member in a company, you are liable if something were to happen that is fraudulent. To the same extent that everybody else is, even if you don't have any shares in that company.
So it's very similar to financial contracts as well, that like a lot of people got to keep in mind. Signing into a company is the same as a financial contract, because
Yes.
like with the financial contracts, right, like there's there's parental guarantees and all this type of stuff that people can get for property, and the ramifications is that the person that guarantees the loan is liable for it if the other people don't pay for it. So if something was to happen, fraudulent activity, customer disputes that go into legal, like the legal ramifications of that it does come back to all parties involved, people that are either, whether they're directly involved every day into activities or not, but they're still on a piece of paper, it's still the same, right? Yep. So yeah, this is great stuff. This is good for all of you as well that are tuning in. If you have any questions for Maria, for myself, or even for Serena here as well, like for any questions you guys have, just comment to the comments and just let us know. If you're really enjoying this as well, just continue just saying that you enjoy it, because we may just get Maria back on again as well, because I'm sure there's heaps more that we can talk about around this. So any sort of final thoughts, anything else around partnerships or tips or anything else that you can give some people today, Maria?
Yeah. I mean, always have the contract, have a lawyer help you with the contracts. Because if you have a contract already, or you find a template online that you like, or someone else that has a good contract that you're thinking, oh, that would be really good for me to use also, please have a lawyer review it for you to really check that it is specifically for you and your company structure, the countries you're working in. When it is an international business, you need to have a lawyer check it for you. And also think about, like, if you are asked, like in some countries, you need to have someone that is residential in the company and they're asked to just be on the company. Always check everything and have contracts in place about the liability if you are to go into partnership or going into a contract somewhere. And always, I mean, like me, I'm a Swedish lawyer. I know the Swedish rules, but I also work a lot internationally, helping investors, company, both private people and that are investing, and companies. And I'm looking at for them. So how can I find a good a good reliable lawyer in the country they are thinking about working in or doing having a company, or having especially when you start a company, it's really important to have a local lawyer. But what I do, I always check the contracts anyway for my clients, because sometimes, like Serena had this happening to her that you were talking about, that the liability clause were not in your favor. It was only in the favor of the people in that country. So you need to have someone, even if you're having a lawyer doing it, please have a third opinion on it. Like, if you go to a doctor and, you know, someone gives you this and this and is your health, maybe you want a second opinion. It's the same here. Have someone just review it for you and check that everything is in your interest. It's really important to think about that.
What does someone do if, you know, I'm just sort of thinking in my naive first beginning years, you know, I trusted a couple of American gurus, and they ended up owing me a lot of money and left, you know, without paying it. And I had no idea, you know, like I thought they were friends as well, but, you know, obviously not. I thought about what can I do to get it, because it was quite substantial amounts, but it's like, how do you go to another country? There was no legal thing or whatever. It's just that it was doing a job for them. Do you have something you can do if you're running a business and you're doing a job for somebody and they have to pay you the money? Obviously now, half up front and half when it's finished is the golden rule. And you don't get the finished product until you pay the final one. But back then it was a bit more trust. Could I have gone and maybe got a lawyer in the USA and chased it up or something? What would happen with someone in that situation?
It depends on the contract. It depends what is in the contract. I can't say before I check the contract to see what has been stipulated in the contract from the beginning.
Contract is in a different country though, that's the problem.
Yeah. So you always, when you go into, even, I mean, as a citizen, as a private person, if you're signing a contract, don't sign without reading the contract. Always check how many days do you have to change your mind. If something were to happen that you want to change your mind, what is happening, you know, do you have to pay the full amount anyway, or what is in this contract? And something that many don't think about that might come into different countries as selling is that private people are still protected by the rules in that country. So if someone sells like in internet products, and they have in their contracts and in their policies and terms and conditions that this is what is if a person buys, you have these many days, like 3 days. In some countries you can choose, but if you sell to a private person in Europe, it's 14 days because it's protected. Private citizens are protected by so many different laws. So especially when it comes to private citizens that you're selling to, you need to know a little bit more about the rules in that country that you're selling. So you know what you need to look out for. And if you're starting a company in another country, if you go into that company, set up, establishing permanently, and you're selling to customers, all of your terms and must be translated to that local language. But it's also many don't know that they need to have that. And then you need to check so that everything is in the, you know, following that country's rules. There's a lot of things to think about.
There is one in particular as well too, which affects a lot of businesses. So a lot of businesses sell a product. A lot of it's either coaching, speaking, you know, summits on stage, all that sort of stuff. So someone signs up to a product or a contract and they have that contract given to them. Which is a major sort of law? Like normally there's a pull-out clause or something that should legally be always inserted into any contract. What is the majority of that law that is, you know, like the baseline, I guess, for everybody, and should every contract have that in there?
The thing is, it's different for different countries. All of this is different for different countries. So you need to have a lawyer to help you check that. And you should, whenever you sell to private citizens, there are specific things to think about. If you're selling business to business, there are other things to think about.
Yeah, but you're selling your product, so it's your contract. So they're signing up to you, your contract. So it'll have to be the contract in your own.
Yes, but still, if you're selling to people in other jurisdictions, other countries, then those laws in those countries might protect them, you know, and might come into place if you're doing business with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in America and you sign up to someone who's got an American company and you purchase something and it says, you know, sign the bottom line here, here's, be aware of the fine details, and you have 48 days to change your mind and pull out of this. After that 48 days, that's it, there's no pulling out.
Mm.
And then most countries would have something similar to that, just the days time frame might be different.
Yes.
Yeah. And does that time frame have to go with what's in that particular country? Like, does each country have a law to say it must be a minimum of?
It depends. If it is a private citizen, you must follow that citizen's country's rules. Yeah. So like, I know a person who signed a contract with a Canadian company and they had 3 days in their contract, but she lives in Europe and that's 14 days. So then the 14 days is what is, you know, because she's a private citizen and she bought it as an individual. Yeah.
Okay. I did get Mikhail asking me, where is it best to set up your company if you're not based in one location? I have an American citizenship, so I have the option to set it up there. Is this a valid question or too obvious? Where is it best to set up your company if you're not based in one location?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. A lot of, I've done a lot of, how you say, company has come to me and said, okay, so if we want to start a business where we have in many different countries, which are the most beneficiary to have, like our holding company and then subsidiaries in different countries. And that depends on the taxation, because also it's not just a company that's going to be taxed, because in every country, if you have a company in that country wants to tax that company because it's within their borders, within their jurisdiction. And if you're a residential in a company, in a country, that country is primarily the one that is going to get the taxes from your income. So if you're having a company in a specific country, you need to check, when you choose that country, what is the tax liabilities in that country? And other rules and regulations also, of course, check what is, you know, commercials, all of these things. But also look at, if you have a residential, like in the US now, you have to check, okay, so what is the treaties between these countries when it comes to double taxations for you as a private citizen? Because if you have a limited company and you get salary and you're living in a specific country, and like, let's say you're living in the United States and you have a company in the UK, just to have an example. And the UK company are taxed, the profit there, but then you might be employed in that country, so you get a salary, but you're living in the United States. So then the UK company needs to follow the rules for an employee in United States when it comes to taxes, paying social fees, all of these things.
Yeah.
So they need to register as an employer in the country and follow those rules. And you also need to think about, when you get your salary, what kind of, that is a cost for the company. So that's no problem for the company, but how is it for you to get the salary paid out? What kind of taxes is on that? And then if you take out dividend, that is taken in the company, they paid out from the company after tax. So that's money after tax. So that will be taxed in the country where the company is with tax for company. But then you get it paid to you in the US, and then you have an income, and then it will be paid, will be taxed there also for you for the income. And that might be capital gain taxes. It depends. In some countries, I know. That is why you need a lawyer to check it, you know.
Look, I know a lot of it because I had the same thing. Like, I paid different tax in when I had the company in the Philippines. And I know that, as soon as it was in like a profit, that tax would have been taxable then in the Australian. Not that I understand a lot of that stuff. I'm very right brain, but when you're involved with a lot of it, you sort of have to ask a lot of questions and trust the process or whatever. But, that's why I said still be careful of who you trust. So, and then, we were looking at Hong Kong as a possibility of having a company, because just the different tax rules around in, the different states. But either way, like you said, if they're in connection with your own country, whatever the difference is in the tax, you're going to have to go and pay it back in your own country anyway. Unless you know about, which is a whole nother subject, unless you know about live birth certificates and private companies, which is a whole nother subject.
I mean, if you have a holding company and subsidiaries, you can transfer money between the countries and the companies, usually without any taxations, because they're in the same group of companies, in the same family. Yeah. But that is, as you say, that's another rules you need to look at then. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Is there any other questions you'd have for Maria or at all, Serena? I know I'm kind of throwing you in the deep end here as well, and I like throwing you in the deep end because it's also a bit of friendly banter, a bit of fun about it.
I've been waiting for you to talk about the world domination again.
Well, yeah, it's funny. We could talk about world domination, definitely. That's why we brought Maria on anyway, so we can plot world domination. Funny story for all of you that are tuning in at the moment. We had an interview last night, or a bit of a teaser of an interview. We were told to do a teaser of an interview.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Neil. So normally you don't tell two people, especially like me and Serena, to do a teaser, because we're going to literally tease. So he said, "Oh, can you give us a bit of a teaser?" So we just said to the viewers, we said, we're plotting world domination. This has been a six years coming to get onto this interview. And now this is where we're literally starting our first steps towards world domination. And this is like the first plot towards it. So for anybody of you that want to join in on world domination right now that are watching this stream, just comment below, just comment into the stream, world domination, and you can join our world domination regime. Right here. Hence the reason we're bringing people from all over the world. So we had South Africa, we've got Sweden, we've had America, we're actually got next week the Netherlands. So and we're going sort of all over the world right now, as you can see. Singapore, all these areas, right? So world domination, we've got little cells all over the world now. Yeah, it's exciting times, Serena.
I was just thinking about this platform that he used last night, brought up a program called eyeglasses, and the eyeglasses allows you on camera to change your face to chipmunk, alien, twisted nose and all that. And this little thing pops up in front of me and I'm like, oh, and so he starts talking about world domination, and next minute I've got my alien face popping up, we're just cracking up laughing. It was so funny. So I was watching Neil's face. I swear he didn't bloody bat an eyelid. It's like, what are these two doing?
I don't think he still knows that we were doing this. So
he doesn't now, because he was watching just before. We're in trouble. We're on him with 6 other speakers next week.
We'll do our best to behave next week anyway. So that's what happens when you get one person from Australia, another from Bali, and one from South Africa there at the same time, 3 different continents or 3 different countries all in one, right? This is what happens. You don't just ask someone to do a teaser, right? Because then you'll literally be teasing, right? You just tease, don't you? That's just naturally what you do. So yeah, we've got our little cells out now, right? Just all over the world, just slowly plotting. We've got a lot of countries to go, Serena, but that's okay. We'll get there.
There's no more questions that I can see, just a few comments from people. They're laughing about the world domination. I've got someone on a live watch. Mariel, hi Mariel, shout out to you. Thank you for your comments there as well too. Not sure what country you're from, but she made a comment about the GP, or he made a comment. I can't see, you've got looks like it's from Iceland or something. She's got all the...
So maybe we can have somebody in from Iceland as well.
Hey, good idea.
In world domination.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Sorry?
That for people who want to maybe have more questions or are thinking about more about these things, I created a group, a Facebook group that you can join. It's called the International Business Owners Group. So you're all welcome to come and join that. Serena might give you a link to that.
I will when I find it. I've already put the link in though for your sheet that you did up for everybody. I'll just go back and find it and put it in again because it's
So for all of you that are here today, right? Like we really were twisting Maria's arm, like on how much information we could get out of her today. And we told her half an hour. It's now been an hour, so we've twisted another half an hour out of her for you guys, intentionally, right? And she's actually put together this wicked little guide for you guys as well, with just a heap of different things in this guide that goes a lot more in depth around what we've spoken about today and exact steps and things that you can put in place in your business to avoid all of this stuff. Like I know from business in the past, Serena's had heaps of things go on from international countries in the past. I mean, I've seen so much of it, heard so much. You hear new things every single day. And then Maria, obviously, she does this every single day. So there's people all around the world she's sorting things out for on the daily. So if you're planning world domination like us, and you want to dominate the world and put your little cells all over the world and all this sort of stuff. And I know I'm leaving myself super open at the moment by saying putting cells and stuff all over the world. But if you are planning on putting cells all over the world and world domination, you should definitely download her guide, because you're going to need it just in case you run into any legal ramifications along the way. So download the guide. It's just in the description of this video as well. So all you have to do, if you're on your mobile, you just click on it on the screen, and there'll be a little like sort of window pop up, and you'll see there that there's a download there for her, right? You just click on that and you can just download it straight towards your business. What I would also suggest is for every single one of you to ensure that you do jump in her group as well, where you can ask questions, especially if you're looking to do a lot of business internationally, but even more so, like even if you're just doing things locally and you want a support area that's going to be able to help you out with relation to anything legal, you definitely want to jump into that group anyway, because Maria's doing this every single day. A lot of us in business, us business owners, we're doing things to move our business forward, to grow it. And it's not something that we think about every single day, which is the legal ramifications of anything that we actually come into our touch with. So you definitely want to employ somebody who has skills and knowledge that does this every single day, that can help you with this part of it as well, to protect you. And if you're going to be putting all of this effort into growing a business, it can be taken away from you like the click of a fingers. All it is like you've got to really think ahead, think as far ahead as possible, and have somebody in to support you in this area as well, which is everything you're going to get in that guide that she's downloaded for you, that you can just basically just download. I've actually also put into the comments now the Facebook group, as well as Serena has too, I've just seen, so you guys can just get access to that as well, right? So ensure that you're following the page, because we got more interviews for world domination for you guys. We might change it from business warriors to world domination warriors instead, where we can recruit people from every country instead.
To business world domination warriors?
World domination warriors.
Business world domination warriors.
Business world domination warriors. I think that one could stick around. If you guys like business world domination warriors, or like you've got some ideas around it to make it better, comment into the comments and let us know, because yeah, we're open to a change. So thank you so much for jumping on as well, Maria. We really appreciate your time that you've spent, because I know we told you half an hour and we twisted your arm even more to like an hour, and I know it feels like half an hour because it was just such a great conversation today. But at the same point in time, I'm sure everyone has found it of value that's on today too. So, so thank you so much for tuning in. How can people reach out to you if they by chance have some questions, or they would like to sort of get a consult with you or something like that? How does that work?
you can join the group, the International Business Owners Group, or you can add me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Maria Hoij. And I do have like 50 minutes consultation calls, a free call for those that want to contact me, and we can set up an appointment for that. Yes.
Yeah,
and
free
please continue to ask questions.
We should do that,
So
Jared.
Pardon?
We should take up that 50-minute free.
Yeah, I think we should. Because this is the snapshot, guys. Lawyers, it is never free. You don't get a free consultation to work out what it is, right? Like normally we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for something like this. So usually closer to the thousands more than anything. So for all of you, that's nice of that's wonderful of Maria to be able to do that for you. So reach out to her directly, and she can organize a time in her schedule for you guys to be able to get access to that. Naturally, she's probably not going to give away heaps of them as well. So make sure that you do get in quick. If by chance you can't find Maria for some reason, just type info into the comments of this live stream and we will reach out to you directly with all the details. So thanks so much for tuning in once again, Maria. Thanks Serena, for being as amazing as always, and keeping us on track today on time. You know, we're supposed to be half an hour today and we're an hour, and that's okay. That's all right. I need somebody.
Talk about it. What else is everyone going to do? Go out and go to the pub?
Yeah,
Come on.
you may as well. All you guys should be just following this page. That's all you need to do. Just follow the page, and you don't need to go to the pub or anything like that, even when it opened up anyway. So
I'm waiting for the famous ending from you as well. I'm trying to think what it is in my head. And remember, if you don't...
Oh, you want me to give you the tagline?
I think you should. I'm used to hearing that at the end of every one now.
I know you guys love the tagline. So remember, guys, if you do not fight for your own freedom, absolutely nobody else will. So get out there, take action, grab that 15-minute call with Maria and follow the page, and we'll speak to you all very, very soon. Remember to be the warrior. See you guys.